evening. I'm Shirley David, and I'm the chair of Community Enterprises, and I welcome you all here this evening. I see all the important people, those that are concerned about our health, are here this evening. So thank you for being here. And this program tonight is called Blue Zones and Beyond, Healthy Living in Hawaii. And I would like to start the program before I introduce our board with the Pledge of Allegiance. So we have Troop 79 here from the Boy Scouts, and they're going to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. May you come up, boys?
Please join me in the Pledge of Allegiance. Ready? Begin. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Boy Scouts are at all of our programs, and they, as you saw, they were serving our beverages and food this evening. And I want to thank McDonald's for providing the apple slices and cookies and beverages for us. So thank you to Robert Leopoldino, who works with this Boy Scout troop. Thanks, Robert. I also want to introduce you to Community Enterprises board members. Community Enterprises, the only thing that we do is put on these monthly forums. And our board members, who I think they're all here this evening. So we'll start with Mike Matsukawa, who's our secretary, and David Garcia, who is also a board member. You saw him as you came in. He was handing out 3x5 cards. That is, the 3x5 cards is how we ask questions here. So if you have a question, if you have any as you're listening to our speaker, please write them down, and David has more cards, and he'll pick them up, and as will Mike, and give them to Jane Clement, who is also on our board, and she's our moderator this evening. And then Bill Bugby is he's with the program. He's one of our program committee members, Jane and Bill. And so with that, I'm going to turn this program over to Jane, our moderator for this evening.
Thank you, Shirley, and aloha, everybody. Welcome to the West Hawaii Forum, brought to you by Community Enterprises. Again, my name is Jane Clement, and I am delighted to be your moderator this evening. We usually have more than this in our audience, but I was told that the upper roads is closed due to a traffic accident or something like that, and brush fires. But for those of you who are here tonight, thank you very much for being here. Waimea and Hilo recently joined several other communities across the United States for being a Blue Zones project demonstration sites. And both communities recently kicked off its community-wide well-being movement just in February. And tonight we welcome 5 speakers who will talk to us a little bit more about the Blue Zones project and how this movement aligns with and leverages our counties and other organizations' already existing health initiatives. And these healthy living experts will hopefully reveal to us tonight the secrets to living longer, healthier, happier lives. Each speaker will have 10 minutes to make their presentation, after which we will open it up to question and answer. Our board members are standing by with some of those index cards that Shirley mentioned earlier, and you can write your questions on there. And with that, I would like to introduce our first speaker. Carol Ignacio is Community Program Manager of Blue Zones Hawaii and leads the Blue Zones team for the island of Hawaii. She has over 37 years experience in the human services sector and a strong background in community development. Prior to joining the Blue Zones project, Carol was statewide director of the Office for Social Ministry for the Catholic Diocese in Hawaii. Known for her boundless energy, and I can attest for that, candor and determination to help the less fortunate, Carol has pioneered numerous grassroots initiatives to aid the hungry, the homeless, the unemployed, and others on the fringes of society. She is credited with opening the island of Hawaii's first homeless shelter in Hilo, and the Hawaii Island Food Bank, now known as the Food Basket, and the Caravan program, through which social workers and nurses in vans delivered aid to the homeless hidden away on the beaches and byways around the Big Island. Ladies and gentlemen, Ms. Carol Ignacio.
Good evening, and you know who I am now, and I serve as the community manager for Blue Zones. By the end of this presentation, and Bill told me I have 15 minutes, so I prepared accordingly. I hope that you will really glean the secrets of living a longer life. So here we go. What is the Blue Zones? Well, it's about a community-wide well-being initiative that's designed to make healthy choices the easier choice. Communities can lower healthcare costs, improve productivity, and boost national recognition as a great place not only to live, but to work and to play. There are 3 Blue Zone community demonstration projects, and one of the reasons I came out of retirement was simply because 2 of those 3 are on this island. And being a native here, I said, this can't be happening, and if it is, I need to be part of it. Why were they selected? I think really important because we're in the second wave looking for more communities. They had strong civic leadership, solid community networks, exceptional volunteer base, and really the motivation and passion for community. So those were really the criteria that were used to select these communities. How does it work? Any of you know who that guy is? Have you read his book? Dan Buettner. Well, anyway, Dan Buettner is really the brain behind all of this Blue Zones process. He was a National Geographic fellow, and they sent him on an expedition to go throughout the world and to study where people lived the longest, but not only the longest, the healthiest. Areas where people at 100 and 104 still swam, did marathons, performed surgery, you name it. In their hundreds, very, very active. So he found 5 areas that people lived the longest and the healthiest. Okinawa, Japan, Sardinia, Italy, Icaria, Greece, Loma Linda, California, and Nicoya, Costa Rica. He found his first one in the province of Sardinia, in Italy. It's really on the island coast of Italy. Sardinia is a place to many where shepherds and raising sheep is who they are and what they do. In this highland, there's 1 centenarian for every 250 births. In America, we find 1 for every 6,000. Sardinians eat a plant slant diet. None of these 5 zones, with the exception of Loma Linda, California, are vegetarians. But there's a very strong plant-based diets. They all eat meat, they all eat chicken, they all eat fish, they all eat pork, but the size of a deck of cards, not with a steak that is going over your 12-inch plate. Lastly, I think it's really important, they drink a little red wine every day with their friends and their family. Their homemade wine has the highest level of antioxidants in the world. As you hear about the principles that make up these 5 zones and the things that make them healthy, you'll find drinking wine at 5 is very, very important. And we'll talk more about that. We found our second Blue Zone in the archipelago of Okinawa, Japan. Okinawa's longevity profile, I think, is really one that needs to be mentioned here. They have the longest disability-free life expectancy in the entire world. They live 7 good years longer than we Americans do. 7 long years. 5 times as many people in Okinawa are centenarians. This is the one that really had an impact on me. 1/5 the rate of breast and colon cancer than we do in the United States, and 1/6 the rate of cardiovascular disease. So they're doing something right. We know from a study that isolation kills. 20 years ago, the average American had 3 close friends. Now that number is down to 1.5. The Okinawa culture is committed to solid networks, not being alone, often known as moais. You'll hear more about that throughout the night. Parents form these moais shortly after their birth of their children, cultivating relationships far into long bonds. These women in the picture, they always fascinate me. They've been in this particular moai for 97 years. Some of them, the average age of them is 101 years old. The third blue zone in America is Loma Linda, California. Most of you know it's a city located right outside of Los Angeles. So what makes them a blue zone? This area is populated by a large concentration of Seventh-day Adventists. And due to their incredible health statistics, Seventh-day Adventists have been the subject of one of the largest studies in America. What they have found is that they've tracked over 30 years, 101 individuals. That's a long study. Although people in Loma Linda have similar surroundings to as other Americans, they live up to 10 years longer than the average American. Why do you think that is? They focus on family. Family is critical to them. Family, friends, and support groups that really support their lifestyles. Some of you asked me about the poster outside. What is this? The tribe. You hang out with the right tribe, you're going to have the right life. Additionally, their strong sense of religion not only influences, their spirituality, but also the vegetarian plant-slant diet. The way they live, they take long walks, just taking in nature and being with family. Individuals in this community also have a strong sense of purpose. This is my favorite slide that stays with them as they grow older. This guy, Ellsworth Warham, he's 97 years old, and he wanted to build that fence. And when he went to check with the contractors, they said they wanted $6,000 to build that fence. And he said, "No way, Joe." He was going to build it himself. Well, guess what happened? The next day, after completing the fence, he landed up in the emergency room, but not as a patient, rather as a surgeon. At 97 years old, he still does multiple open heart surgeries at least once a month. Buettner, and I really encourage you to go on the website, look up lots of materials there. So he found that actually there were 2 other zones I'll talk a little bit more about that. But he comes back to America after 8.5 years with all of this wonderful experts and say, okay, so what? What are the things that are consistent within these 5 zones? And he discovered these secrets that have become what we call the Power 9. Move naturally. Know your purpose. Why do you get up in the morning? Do you have purpose? Downshift. All of us got to take a little bit time to downshift. There's a 80% rule. There's a disconnect we found between the head and the heart, the head and the stomach. The stomach has said, I'm full already. And the head is saying, no, keep eating. So stop eating when you're 80% full. Certainly a plant slant, wine at 5. Not so much the wine, but the sense of connecting and talking story with people. Family first, very, very strong principle within these 5 communities. The sense of belonging. The studies found that when you belong to some kind of group, whether it's a faith-based group, a spiritual, a group, and you practice that at least 4 to 5 times a month, you live between 7 and 14 years longer. And the right tribe. You are who you hang out with. He also found that, and it's true, think for 1 minute now, 90% of our life is lived in a 5-mile radius. You go to grocery stores, you come to talks, you work, whatever you do is usually within a 5-mile radius. So what Blue Zones does is really try to impact that radius. And how do we do that? And how effective is it? When we work with restaurants, how many of you have gone to KTA recently? Okay. Have you seen the Blue Zone checkout line? There's a checkout line. If you haven't seen it, it's there. Just making being healthier the easier choice. These checkout lines have no junk food in it. So if you're raising your kids and you want to have them eat fruit and veggies and all this healthy stuff, go down that line. There's the 10 others, but it's a choice. Some of the benefits of living these 9 pillars and the principles. In the beach cities alone, in California, in 1 year's time, there was a reduced obesity rate of 14%. Healthy eating went up by 9%. In Iowa, 20% of the healthcare costs in that city went down. And I could go on and on. It's evidence-based that you'll learn. More than 1,000 communities across the nation are part of the Blue Zones family. And more are becoming interested in becoming healthier communities. We have a major healthcare epidemic in this country. 68% of this population can be classified as overweight, have some kind of diabetes, have kind of cardiovascular disease. So what the Blue Zones does is come to a community and try to impact that 5-mile radius that will help you make healthy choices the easier choice. I want to encourage you on the table out there. There's a flyer that really goes through the principles, what we call the Power 9. And how is it that a community becomes a Blue Zones community and the benefits. So how can you get involved? I'm going to be unveiling some real important information tonight before I end. We are 3 communities now. The next wave is about to happen, and we're encouraging this community to be a Blue Zone community. Thank you.
Thank you, Carol. Thank you very much. Our next speaker is Mr. Randy Kuruhara, who is currently serving as our county's managing director. And he served from 2008 to 2012 as the director of the Department of Research and Development. A longtime Hawaii Island businessman, he is an owner of the custom apparel and graphics company Creative Arts Hawaii, and both the Parker Ranch store and Aloha Grown retail operations. He graduated from the University of Hawaii at Manoa with a Bachelor's of Business Administration degree in marketing. He is a board member and past president of the Rotary Club of South Hilo, director and past president of the Japanese Chamber of Commerce and Industry of Hawaii, board member with the Hawaii Island Chamber of Commerce, member of the Hawaii Health Systems Corporation's East Hawaii Regional Board, and a board member of the Kona Kohala Chamber of Commerce. Please welcome Randy Kurohara.
Thanks, Jade. Aloha. Thanks for having me here this evening. And really, I'm not a healthcare expert, but what I wanted to do tonight was kind of just, I guess, when asked, what does the county do or how do we support healthy living, I kind of wanted to maybe take a step back further and kind of frame it in a way that makes sense of how we view healthcare and healthy living. So back when Mayor Kinnaird took office, one of the things that we looked at was, what role can the county play when it comes to healthcare and living healthy? And what we realized was that, the delivery of care is very complex, and this country has gone or is going through a lot of transformative change when it comes to how healthcare is being delivered. But all of that is being driven by the cost of healthcare, right? So if you have a crisis, in a sense, nationwide in terms of the rising cost of healthcare. And one of the things that we're looking at as a community is how can we all work together to change that, to make that better. Stemming from all of this was a philosophy or a paradigm shift of looking at healthcare, shifting from treating disease and illness to keeping people healthy, right? So if you're a physician today, the goal is not to just, constantly see patients when they're sick, is to really look at them as keeping them healthy, and I think that's, as simple as it sounds, it's very difficult, at times, because you're talking about, like an industry that involves hospitals and clinics and family practitioners, so it's very complex. So what our mayor did, and was really smart at that, is he realized that the county, we have a limited amount of resources. Our role is to look at what we have, within our tool belt, which is our various departments. We got the Department of Planning, Public Works, Parks and Recreation. How can we use what we have to make a difference? And we thought that as someone that cares about, and the county cares about the health and safety and well-being of everyone on this island, what we wanted to do was, use what we have to promote that, right? So I think we've, done a really good job in terms of looking at what can we do to promote healthy living within the County of Hawaii. And so that came down to, for instance, we have public transportation, making sure that that's accessible, that we can expand that so people can get around. Whether they need to go to the doctor, need to go to the hospital, there's routes in place that can accomplish that. There's van pooling, there's a lot of ways that people can use a transportation system to get around. Also, the county has, in terms of its fire department, we have the emergency medical services, or EMS group, that respond to, the 911 calls. We have a very qualified, very professional team there, island-wide. That's kind of like our way that we kind of contribute to healthcare delivery. Is we're the first responders. We respond to emergencies. We transport people to the hospitals. Let's see. But where I think we make the biggest difference is when it comes to setting up an environment where people can have a healthy lifestyle. So that's our parks, that's our roads, our streets, and things of that nature. And for the past years, we've been really investing heavily in upgrading all of our parks that we have, making sure that we have nice playgrounds for our kids. Our mayor always talks about when children have nice parks and get involved with team sports or just playing on the playground. It keeps them healthy, keeps them active. It teaches them a lot of discipline and things that are good for them as they grow up. So having the infrastructure through, like I said, the parks, the playgrounds, the fields that you can play soccer or baseball or football in, these are things that we really try to invest in around the island. So many communities in the last few years have seen upgrades or new parks that I believe is probably going to be our legacy in regards to this island living a healthier lifestyle. when it comes to roads and planning and things of that nature, as we get to fixing roads or building roads, we want to make sure that they have the adequate sidewalks in place, the multimodal, bike lanes, pathways, things of that nature, so that people can now go out and walk and exercise and do these kinds of things that keep people healthy. And in terms of other things that this administration has looked at was education and outreach, or doing kinds of initiatives that brings an awareness to living healthy. So we've, I think in 2010 or so, Karen can correct me, but we did hold a Mayor's Healthcare Summit, which really brought a variety of stakeholders, people from the healthcare field here, nonprofits, everybody that's involved with healthcare, to kind of look at where are the needs, where are the opportunities and challenges that we face. From that, we really got a better vision on, from the county standpoint of putting on events that would bring your attention towards living healthy. So since then, on a yearly basis, we've been doing these Mayor's Health Fests in East Hawaii and in West Hawaii. It's a day of celebrating health with booths and activities, and we even have keiki triathlons now that, again, trying to really start this mindset of living healthy at a very young age. In Hilo, we started, and for the past 2 years have done a triathlon in Hilo, which is really growing. It's really gaining a lot of momentum. And of course, in West Hawaii, folks have had this for many years, so that has really inspired the mayor to start something in East Hawaii, which hasn't had that. So there's the challenges of organizing that whole thing and all that. So, but we've done it for the past 2 years. Karen Tishima back there, Karen, if you raise your hand, she's the organizer, the spearheader for the mayor's office, done a really good job. But really, that's kind of what I wanted to share, was really that from a county standpoint, we're working closely with CARA and the Blue Zones. It does require looking from an infrastructural standpoint on what can we do from our planning department standpoint as we plan things. How can we make sure that the streets are done right? That if we have to improve a street, make sure that as we do it, it's done in a way that in the long run promotes that active, healthy lifestyle. So again, our public works, our parks and recreation department, pretty much everything that we can try and throw at living healthy or helping that mindset has been a priority with this administration. So anyway, that's what I want to share, and again, I'll be around to answer any questions. Thank you.
Mahalo, Randy. And it's a good segue to our next speaker talking about streets, because our next speaker will be talking to us about complete streets. Tina Clothier is the Executive Director of PATH, People's Advocacy for Trails Hawaii. PATH is a grassroots nonprofit 501c3 bicycling and walking advocacy organization founded in 1986. PATH's mission is to safely connect the people and places on Hawaii Island with pathways and bikeways. Prior to joining PATH, Tina enjoyed a 16-year career with the American Cancer Society and retired in late 2010 from her position as the Chief Staff Officer for the American Cancer Society Hawaii Pacific Region. Her professional career outside of nonprofits includes owning and operating Jack's Diving Locker from 1981 through 1991 and property manager at King Shops Waikoloa Resort. Tina has lived on the Big Island for over 35 years, having moved from Oahu in 1979. She has been active in a variety of civic organizations, including Rotary Club of Kona, Kona Kohala Chamber of Commerce, Habitat for Humanity, Family Support Hawaii, Destination Kona Coast, and the Ocean Recreation Council of Hawaii. Please welcome Tina Clothier.
Thank you, Jane. Thank you, everyone. Can you hear me? And how's the light on the screen there? Can you read it?
Fine.
Does it need to be dim? Okay, great. Then we'll go ahead. Well, thank you so much for this opportunity to tell you a little bit about PATH. Jane said it was okay to do a plug for PATH, and and to drill down a little bit more on complete streets and what that means for Hawaii Island. This is a little bit about PATH. We have been in existence since 1986. So for 30 years this year, we have been advocating for bicyclists and pedestrians. And we found in this last 5, maybe not even 10 years, that one of our best tools for that advocacy is actually Complete Streets. And we'll tell you a little bit about that tonight. So these are some of the topics I'm going to cover very quickly. What are Complete Streets? Show of hands, anybody heard the term Complete Streets? Quite a few people in the audience, so I'll move very quickly on this. But this is just a 30,000-foot view, and it's basically what's happening on Hawaii Island. So what are Complete Streets? Basically, Complete Streets ensure safe, comfortable travel for all users. And those users are not only motorists, but also pedestrians, as Randy was saying, and cyclists, and skateboarders, and people jogging. And as Carol was saying, one of the tenets of Blue Zones is natural movement, natural activity. So Complete Streets really do afford the facility for that type of activity. 50 years ago, we used to design all our streets like this. But then we got very car-centric, and we have really moved away from that natural movement that in our daily lives. A Complete Streets policy is a policy that basically is a set of road standards that allow for this type of building. Who wants Complete Streets? There's been several surveys done over the last 10 years, and I saw a hand went up. Somebody in the audience wants a Complete Street. So who wants it? Half Americans surveyed said that they'd like to walk more. A third of our residents on Hawaii Island do not drive. And I don't know if you're aware of that, but a third of our residents are either too young to drive or have gotten past the age of being able to drive. And they would benefit from Complete Streets. Older adults, people who wish to age in place and stay active. People with disabilities. People who are less able-bodied want to be more connected and more independent, and Complete Streets Designs allows for that. And children. Carol said that we were facing a crisis, a health crisis in this nation, and our children are the ones that are really going to carry that health crisis all the way through to their adulthood. Our children are subject to hosts of chronic diseases because they're no longer physically active, because it's not safe for them to ride their bikes or to walk to school or to play in their streets the way it might have been safe for us as we were growing up. And finally, our lower income residents who either cannot afford a car or maybe having a car takes up all of their disposable income, where they spend more on their transportation than they actually are able to spend on food and housing. So Complete Streets actually allows for that connectivity, and that's not only street design, bike lanes, sidewalks, but also transit that Randy spoke about. And finally, the CDC says that everybody benefits from Complete Streets. And the CDC has, and so does Blue Zones, say that the built environment is an essential part of having a healthy community. And it's been shown over and over again, if you build a place for people to walk, they will walk. If you build a place for people to ride bikes, they will ride bikes. And so I'm very excited as to what the county's doing right now in terms of Complete Streets. This is what we're faced with, not only in Hawaii, and we have been faced with not only in Hawaii but across the nation, that our streets are just not adequate. They don't address the needs of all the users. These are kids walking to school, and there's a shoulder there, and that's good. It looks pretty scary to me, so you can imagine why parents wouldn't be thrilled about their kids walking to school. And
many of our lanes here in Hawaii Island and certainly across the mainland are far too wide. If you could imagine trying to, if you were elderly or infirmed, trying to get across those lanes of traffic on that crosswalk, how scary that might be. So people just don't. They don't walk across streets. But instead of this, what we're starting to see in Hawaii County is this. We're starting to talk about putting our roads on a road diet. We're taking the fat out of the road, and that's going to help take the fat out of the residents. And that's done with paint, striping. So how did this all come about? Well, back in 2009, the state of Hawaii passed legislation, an ordinance, a Complete Streets bill. And in 2011, the County of Hawaii followed with a Complete Streets resolution. And that started the ball rolling on changing planning and how we deal with our roads. On Hawaii County, along with many partners, including the county council members, PATH, the Mayor's Active Living Advisory Council, and the Blue Zones Project, we're all taking collective steps to support active transportation by embarking on various Complete Streets initiatives. This is actually Hilo, but this is a slide from the Hilo Downtown Mobility Plan, our program that is actually underway right now. The County of Hawaii received a grant. It's a two-part grant. The first part was to do a Hilo Downtown Mobility study and looking at ways that Complete Streets elements could be implemented in downtown Hilo. And then the second part of the grant was actually to pay for a Complete Streets plan for the entire island. Council Chair Drew Kanuha is working with PATH, and we're working with the Kailua Village Downtown Improvement District to advocate for Ali'i Drive being one of the demonstration projects for that Complete Streets plan that will happen later this year. And this is just an example of a treatment that might be able to be applied on Ali'i Drive that would allow motorists to know that they'd be sharing a lane with a cyclist. It would also tell cyclists where it is safe to ride along the road, and it would keep them out of the door zone where the cars are parked. You know, this doesn't necessarily have to be bike lanes everywhere, sidewalks everywhere. I mean, that's really cost prohibitive. Sometimes Complete Streets design can simply be putting down some paint, widening a shoulder. This is actually in Kauai High. And you can see what a difference paving that shoulder made to the perception of being safe. It actually creates a space where the cyclist can be, feels safe, the motorist is aware that that's where the cyclist is going to be. So that can be done during routine maintenance, and that's starting to happen all across the Big Island. This is the shoulder widening in Waikoloa on Waikoloa Road. By the end of the year, the shoulder will be at least, I heard yesterday it was going to be 9 feet wide, but at least 6 feet wide on both sides of the road, all the way from the top to the bottom, making that a much safer road. When there's new construction, as Randy was saying, that's when, from the beginning, Complete Streets design can be implemented with sidewalks, with robust crosswalks, with shared use paths separated from the roadway. This is up in Waimea. And you might have noticed more bike lanes in Kailua Kona, and you'll see many more in Kailua Kona and on every new road that the county builds going forward. And in the beginning of spring this year, you'll start to see the first mile of a 16.7-mile loop trail that will connect Kailua Village to the University of Hawaii at Pulaumanui. The first mile goes down on Anikeokolole, right behind us, sometime between March and April. The Rotary Club of Kona and Kona Mauka and Kona Sunrise are going to help plant street trees, but they're not just going to be trees, they're going to be trees that people can use. They're going to be fruiting trees and flower trees, and PATH and the Rotary Club will take responsibility for taking care of those, and then invite other community groups to help us as we move forward. So we're very excited about this, and we invite you to stay tuned. And then finally, just a little reminder that moving naturally, active living, is one of the secrets for longevity. Thank you very much.
Mahalo, Tina. I just want to remind the audience, if you have questions, please go ahead and write them down and hand them to one of our board members. Before even Blue Zones project even became a movement, a national movement, healthy living lifestyles have already been adopted by a lot of people, and practicing yoga is one of those things. So I'm very happy tonight to introduce to you Ms. Maya Parrish, who has a BA in psychology from the University of California at Santa Cruz. She has completed two 200-hour Yoga Alliance certified yoga teacher training programs. The first in Hatha Yoga and the second in Integrative Yoga Therapy. She holds an ERYT designation, having taught over 1,000 hours of yoga instruction. Maya teaches weekly group classes up and down the Kohala Coast at her private studio space in the shops at Mauna Lani, the Mauna Kea Beach Hotel, the Mauna Lani Bay, and works privately with both residents of and visitors to Hawaii Island, designing personalized programs to elicit optimal wellness in each individual. Drawing from great thinkers, inspiration from her teachers, and from her own intuition and studies, Maya weaves together a holistic experience for her clients that are crafted to have a lasting resonance in the whole self. Maya invites her students to experience the yogic symphony of movement and stillness through the body, breath, heart, mind, and spirit. Ladies and gentlemen, Maya Parrish.
Thank you to the board for inviting me here this evening. So my name is Maya, as you said, and my website is right up there. You can find out a little bit more about me through the website. Can everybody hear me okay? I don't know if I'm turned on.
How about now? Right on. So I think there are a lot of ideas about yoga out there that maybe yoga's not for me because I can't put my foot behind my head, or I would never be seen in a pair of yoga pants or anything like that, right? And I hope that this presentation might change your mind. Yoga has evolved in the West as a non-denominational, or perhaps better said, a multi-denominational practice. While yoga originated in India and has deep ties to Hinduism and Buddhism and many other Eastern religions, yoga is now practiced and embraced by practitioners of every world religion and atheists and agnostics as well. You do not have to subscribe to any particular series of beliefs in order to enjoy the life-changing benefits that yoga has to offer. Let's first dive into a little background on the meaning of the word yoga and the different paths of yoga in order to provide context for a discussion of its benefits. Yoga has two potential roots in the Sanskrit language. The first is yujir yoga, to unite, to bind, to yoke. This can be understood and is experienced for the individual practitioner as the yoking or the uniting of the body, the mind, and the spirit all together. And also for the collective as we bind our individual self to others. The etymology of the word yujir yoga comes from the yoking of oxen. Yeah. So if we can actually open to this experience of uniting our minds, our bodies, our spirits, and uniting ourselves as individuals with the collective, perhaps we can open to the experience that we are all one. The second root for in the Sanskrit language is yuj samadho, which means to concentrate. Yoga incorporates many meditative practices, and these deep concentration practices can open you up to an experience known as samadhi. Samadhi translates to absorption in oneness, one-pointedness of mind, being fully aware of the present moment. So when most of us in the West say yoga, what we're talking about is hatha yoga. But there are actually several different paths of yoga. There's bhakti yoga, the yoga of love and devotion. Jnana yoga, the yoga of wisdom. Karma yoga, we've all heard the word karma, right? The yoga of action or service. And hatha yoga, which is the physical practice of yoga. By devoting our awareness to our breath and to the sensations in our bodies as we move and hold and flow through a series of postures, Hatha yoga practitioners are invited to experience unity. These postures or poses in Hatha yoga are called asanas, and the translation for asana in Sanskrit is seat. So we're always looking to find our seat or find our home as we take these different shapes in our bodies in the practice. I teach Hatha yoga, and there are a number of different styles of Hatha yoga to suit any body, any type, any age, any level of flexibility or strength that you may have. Some styles of Hatha yoga include vinyasa flow, gentle yoga, restorative yoga,
what else? Yin yoga, Bikram yoga, the hot yoga, all different kinds. And I'd be happy to talk more about those different practices when we get to the Q&A portion. So let's dive into the benefits. Hatha yoga has many benefits for the physical body. Some of the major ones include increased flexibility. Increased flexibility eases and prevents aches and pains, it reduces stiffness, and it allows us to enjoy life to the fullest with our full range of motion. Another benefit is that it strengthens muscles. Let's all try that afterwards. Stronger muscles can help prevent arthritis, they can help prevent other aches and pains, and they can give us the freedom to do what we want to do in our lives without our bodies or any restrictions holding us back. The movement in yoga protects our joints, our cartilage, and our spine. The forward bending, backward bending, and twisting postures in yoga scrunch our joints and our cartilage around, which is important for them. This movement allows them to be soaked by blood and good nutrients and to stay healthy. This is also true for the discs in our spine between the vertebrae. They can bulge or herniate. I don't know if anyone has ever experienced a herniated or a bulging disc, but it can be quite painful, yeah? These discs need movement so they can be soaked in these nutrients and the good blood. And they stop getting soaked naturally when we are about 18. So it's very, very important as we age that we continue to do this. The weight-bearing postures in yoga promote bone density. Greater bone density prevents osteoporosis, sprains, breaks. Again, as we age, this positive influence of yoga on our bones, our joints, our cartilage, and our spines is increasingly beneficial. Hatha yoga also benefits the various systems of the body. So, unfortunately, most of us tend to be in the sympathetic nervous system response, commonly known as fight or flight most of the time, and it's much more frequently than is actually healthy for us these days. Now, fight or flight has its usefulness. When a tiger or a bear is chasing us, our body perceives this threat, it activates a physiological response, and all of the other systems start to shut down or slow down so that the blood can go to the muscles so we can be strong and fast and ready to combat this attack. Some of these symptoms, you probably can't read them, but they involve increased heart rate, difficulty breathing, that butterfly feeling that you get in the stomach is blood being diverted away from your stomach, away from your digestion, or if you feel a little bit dizzy when you're anxious, that's blood being diverted away from the brain. So obviously, over the long term, this is very detrimental to our bodily systems. Hatha yoga promotes the parasympathetic nervous system, also known as rest and digest. And this rest and digest system allows all of our other bodily systems to operate more optimally, which promotes overall well-being. Hatha yoga helps our lymphatic system. Our lymph system is a fluid system in our body, and that fluid is connected with our immune system. So the movement of yoga allows the lymph system to flush and flow, which builds immunity and helps us fight infection. Hatha yoga also helps our circulatory system. The postures or the asana of yoga gets the blood flowing to all the different parts of the body, which increases overall function. And some styles, such as vinyasa flow, can even raise the heart rate, which helps our lung and our heart function. Hatha yoga also helps our digestive system. It just goes on and on, right? Hatha yoga regulates our adrenal glands, and our adrenal glands produce cortisol, which is also known as the stress hormone. Our digestive systems do not work well when we have high levels of cortisol in our systems. Same thing with the fight or flight response. And more scientists are doing these studies, studying the microbiome, which there is the ecosystem of that bacteria which is in our gut, and they're linking the health of our digestive tracts to our overall health and our immunity and our well-being. Hatha yoga also benefits our mental and emotional function. There have been a number of different studies on the effects of meditation on the brain. This study is showing a scan of brains of a group of before and after they've completed an 8-week mindfulness meditation course. And I'm not a neuroscientist, so I won't go into all of the particulars, but the meditation increases the gray matter in the brain in various areas, and these areas were linked to learning, memory, emotion regulation, sense of self, and perspective taking, or empathy. So meditation helps with all of that. It is also being shown that meditation can help slow down the aging process in the brain. This study scanned brains of longtime meditators and compared them to non-meditators. While both groups lost gray matter with age, it's just what happens, the retention of gray matter over time in the brains of meditators versus the non-meditators was extremely significant. Meditation has also shown to increase neural pathways and networks, literally rewiring our brains. And this increased activity and gray matter in the brains of meditators has been correlated with increased resilience, mental flexibility, and happiness. Who could ask for anything more? Yeah. Yoga also allows us to slow down and watch our thoughts so that we can learn to respond rather than react. This fosters healthier relationships with ourselves, our fellows, and our environments. It also is very, very good for clearing emotional traumas that may have lodged in the physical body. More and more researchers are studying PTSD sufferers, and they're finding that yoga is very, very helpful. Sometimes these sufferers of PTSD cannot process their trauma through conventional talk therapy or pharmaceuticals or these other options that are available, but these physical practices allow them to help process this trauma on a subconscious level. Hatha yoga also benefits us by allowing us to find community and fellowship. The word Sangha in Sanskrit translates to a group of fellows coming together to explore the highest truth. As Carol was speaking to earlier, the high level of disease and dis-ease in our culture has so much to do with loneliness and isolation these days. So just as anything, whether it's Tai Chi, Qigong, whatever it is that works for your body, coming together with a group of fellows to practice in this way can do amazing things to increase our quality of life. Hatha yoga offers us the opportunity to stretch and strengthen our bodies as we cultivate our capacity for conscious awareness. Through focusing our attention on the breath and on the sensations in the body as we practice yogic asana and meditation, we increase our ability to be present. As our awareness and presence grow, our lives can unfold and shift in ways we might never have imagined possible. The benefits of Hatha yoga can begin with one conscious breath or one conscious movement. And if we have time during the Q&A section, I would be honored to lead you in a very, very brief movement and breath practice. Thank you so much.
Thank you, Maya. Randy did ask me earlier if we were going to do yoga poses later on tonight.
Handstand for everyone.
Okay. So Randy also mentioned earlier that the county's focus as far as health care is concerned is more of the preventative measure rather than the cure, right? So setting up environment where people can move freely and be more active. Our next speaker will talk about the causes of health versus the orthodox treatment of disease. So Jack Ebner earned a PhD in biophysiology from the American College of Health Sciences. Jack has a health consulting practice here in Kona area and has provided health education classes across the Big Island for 25 years. He has helped many people restore themselves to a higher level of health using the self-healing and repairing powers inherent within the human organism. Jack offers the Healthy Seminar series, which focuses on the causes of health versus the orthodox treatment of disease, which is to manage or suppress it rather than removal of causes, recognizing that a healthy diet is only one part of the formula for health. If one's personal health challenges are in the acute or chronic stages, with diet and lifestyle modifications, most conditions will improve and possibly clear up completely over time. Please welcome Jack Ebner.
Thank you for having me here, and you just said everything that I was going to say. So thank you, good night everybody. I moved here in 1989 after selling a business that I had on the mainland for a number of years, and I was so impressed with the beauty of this island that I made a vow to myself that I didn't know what I was going to get involved in, but it was going to be something that would benefit the people here as well as the environment. I didn't know what that was going to be. That was just the agreement I made with myself. And I initially got involved with a free energy project that was out of California, and it was going well, and we were in the process of doing public demonstrations when the county constable showed up and confiscated all the equipment, gutted everything in the office, and that was the end of that project. So that was pretty shocking, and that was my first taste of what happens when you want to do something where you don't have permission from those that apparently you need to have permission from to do things like that. Anyhow, so that was the end of that project, and so what happened next was I was invited by a friend of mine that lived over on Oahu to come over and see surfing on the North Shore because I had only seen it on television. Here I was living in Hawaii. I wanted to see this. So I flew over for the day, and while we were running around doing errands, he said, listen to this, I'll be back in a few minutes. And he put a taped health lecture in his cassette deck. It was a health lecture by Tony Robbins, who maybe most of you have heard of. And so I'm sitting there, kind of a captive audience in his car, and basically what Tony Robbins was saying was that disease was not caused by germs and viruses, but rather by this thing that he referred to as toxemia. Well, I had never heard that. That was brand new to me. And I always just assumed that when I would develop what everybody calls the flu, maybe once every couple of years, that it's because I caught something and I needed to take antibiotics, which I did. The symptoms would go away and back to my life again. Well, so I had my friend make a copy of that lecture because I was only there for the afternoon. I listened to it very studiously, could rewind it and everything else. And I couldn't find any holes in his arguments, but I thought, to have that kind of a shift in my thinking, I couldn't just base it on his one lecture. So I had to do a lot of research and find out where he got his information from. And long story short, that was about 25,000 hours of reading and research ago for me, which is a ridiculous amount of study on one subject. But I knew that I wanted to work with people, and since that's a very serious thing to do, one should know what they're talking about, because you're talking about working with people in their lives. So, the Blue Zone project is right up my alley, and really what causes most symptom complexes that we have are errors in living, physiological errors in living that we're not even aware of, okay? And anywhere from what you swallow, what you breathe in, what's injected into you, what's absorbed through your skin. You might put things on your skin, what gets in that way, the quality of the air that you breathe, how much sleep you get, that's extremely important. Are you drinking pure water, or does water have contaminants in it? The appropriate amount of physical activity, the various stressors, physical stressors, chemical stressors, and of course everybody knows about emotional stressors. And the quality of the information that you may be following. So basically what Tony was saying was that lack of eases or diseases that we experience are from not contagion, but rather contamination. Now, that's a huge shift in thinking, and that's why I had to do so much reading. All the symptom complexes that we think of, that you think where you caught something like a cold, what we call a cold, or what you would call flu, or what you would call malaria, or various other symptom complexes, you don't catch them, okay? This would require a complete shift in the way you're thinking about what lack of eases are, okay? And so that requires study. And my aim tonight is hopefully that some of you, or perhaps all of you, will be interested in forming a study group, because this requires study. This is not a 10-minute thing. This is great. This is like an infomercial. I hope you will be interested enough to where you will get involved, because it affects you, it affects your family, and it affects other people in the community that have no idea that this information exists, but it does. And so here's a list of various symptom complexes that arise as a result of physiologically incorrect habits of living, the vast majority of which are within your control. When corrected, the symptom complexes will simply dissipate. They just dissipate, they go away. Because if they are, if caught in time, it depends on how advanced they are. Okay, if you're in the latter stages of something like connective tissue problem, where the joint is fused, it's too late for something like that. It's called ankylosis. But if you catch a condition in time, they can be corrected biologically, not medically, but biologically. Your own body has the ability to repair itself. And everybody's seen that because everybody here has cut themselves. The body forms Mother Nature's bandage, which is a scab, and then eventually that goes away and the skin's rebuilt. You're fine. Well, it's the same process that goes on inside your body. The only difference is that you can't see it. That's the only difference. Any of you here are familiar with Caldwell Esselstyn's work? Anybody? Well, he's a surgeon at the Cleveland Clinic. He's written a book called How to Prevent and Reverse Heart Disease, and he has pictures in his book of arteries before and after diet and lifestyle changes where they've shriveled up, they're practically unusable, and after the changes are made, they're wide open, they're fine, no surgery, nobody had to cut them open, they're fine. Okay, so that's just an obvious example. Here's a list of conditions that, and it's not the only ones, that can be reversed through diet and lifestyle and the right information. Acne, addictions of all kinds, AIDS, allergies of all types, anemia, appendicitis, arthritis, asthma, atherosclerosis, bronchitis, cancers if caught in time, okay, again, if caught in time, candida, carpal tunnel, chickenpox, cholera, cirrhosis, colds, constipation, coronary thrombosis, coughing, cramps, cystic fibrosis, diabetes, diphtheria, ear infections, eczema, encephalitis, epilepsy, gonorrhea, headaches of all types, heart disease, hepatitis of all types, herpes, high blood pressure, Hodgkin's disease, impotence, infections of all kinds, infertility, influenza, all kinds, itching, intestinal diseases, kidney and gallstone problems, laryngitis, leukemia, lupus, malaria, meningitis, mental disorders, mononucleosis, multiple sclerosis, mumps and measles, muscular dystrophy, nephritis, neuritis, neuralgia, obesity, osteoporosis, osteomyelitis, Parkinson's, PMS, pneumonia, polio, prostate cancer, rabies, skin disorders of all kinds, smallpox, snoring, sleep disorders of all kinds, sore throat, strokes, syphilis, tuberculosis, tumors of all kinds, typhoid fever, ulcers, and urinary tract infections. And I'm sure there's more, but that's a lot of them right there. This is all from making changes in your diet and your lifestyle. No treatments, okay? It's your body that heals and corrects itself. So that should be pretty amazing to you, given the things that I named. I know it was to me when I first came across this information. And so what that means is that in most cases when people have problems, what they're thinking of is they're seeking out treatments. Okay, that's just the way we've been wired, okay, when in fact what you need is you need the right information where you're removing the causes. And so it's my belief that no illness which can be successfully treated by diet and lifestyle changes should be treated by any other means. That's all. You need the right information. I can't share this information with everybody on the island. I need a lot of other people that would be interested in this, and it requires a lot of study. That's why we would meet maybe once a month for about an hour and a half, discuss what we're studying, what we're reading. And so after this is over, for any of you that are interested, please come up and see me or my friend Gene back there. He's got a clipboard. There's Gene. And if you're interested, you could give us your name and phone number and email address. Once we have a location and everything, then we'll all start to get together. I'm going to provide you with a health course that's I think you'll find really interesting, as well as a complete list of everything in my health library, all the books, tapes, videos, a lot of by medical doctors, okay? And I know you can't see this. I'm not really tech savvy, so I didn't use that, but it's a pretty extensive library. And I'll close with this. Margaret Mead once said that a small group of thoughtful people could change the world. Indeed, it's the only thing that ever has. And so for those of you in here that may have an interest in this is life-changing information that most people aren't even aware of. It would not only benefit you health-wise, but your family, your friends, and our community, big time, because it's not out there. I didn't know about this until I was 38 years old. Okay, so I was, like I said, when when I was sick, I would do the same thing everybody else did. I would take medications to stop the symptoms. So anyhow, I hope some of you are interested. Thank you for your time.
Thank you, Jack. And that concludes the presentation portion of this forum, and now we will open it up to question and answer. And our first question is for Carol. So Blue Zones is getting ready to start the second wave of the Blue Zones Project community selection. So during the first round, Kona, along with Waimea and Hilo, actually put in a bid to become a Blue Zone community, but Kona did not make the cut. So why wasn't Kona chosen as a Blue Zone? That's number one question. And what does it take for a community to get chosen? And what lessons have you learned, if any, from the Waimea and Hilo processes that could help the Kona community should they decide to put in an application again this year?
Okay, good questions, excellent questions. Number one, I'm 7 months old with Blue Zones. I look young, huh? Anyway, so like many people, I had to go and do research as to what communities were chosen, what was the criteria, that sort of thing. This is what my research has found, okay. HMSA made a major shift, talking about shift in thinking. HMSA, who is the sponsor of bringing Blue Zones to Hawaii, in their strategic plan really looked at, certainly had to continue treating the illness. But they realized that if they're only on one path and not looking at prevention, even HMSA, how large they are, will not be in business. So about 3 years ago, they brought Blue Zones to Hawaii. That was the beginning of part of their response to building healthier communities. My understanding is, and the process at that time was that they put out feelers in the community. They went, in fact, Patty Cook was one of them, in different parts. This is throughout the state. Went through communities, put out information, and communities were that were interested came together and put together a bid. No money involved, but they put together a presentation and said, we're interested. And that wasn't enough. You know, the interest was certainly number one. But the second piece was the criteria that that community would be judged on. And the criteria was quite stringent. You needed a community that was serious about supporting health and wellness. Secondly, the stakeholders or the movers and shakers had to buy into Blue Zones coming to that community. So you had businesses, you had doctors, you had everybody in their in that arena say, yes, if Blue Zones would come to this community, we will support it. Then there was a formal presentation. And about a 90-minute presentation saying, okay, this is a commitment. We got, I mean, people literally, businesses and stakeholders, the mayor's office, and had to sign a commitment that they would support this. So all of this is gathered, these community presentations, and the selection really was based on those communities that could make that commitment to supporting Blue Zones coming. Now, does that mean all the other communities don't have strong volunteer base or committed individuals? No. But 3 communities were going to be chosen. And North Hawaii, East Hawaii, and Ku'olaupoku, which is Kahului, Kaneohe, Kailua area on Oahu. That was the process that was used. That's the first wave. So we are now in, anytime a community is chosen for Blue Zones to come in and work, I think that really important, at least it was for me, was this was the first movement, program, initiative that comes to a community with only one thing in mind, and that's to give the community resources. There's no money involved. There's simply give to that community with a whole bunch of resources that comes with it. The 3 communities are now in, how are we doing? We have 2.5 years of a 3-year process. In Waimea, North Hawaii, we're seeing wonderful things happening. We have purpose workshops where people are coming to and really find out why is it that they wake up in the morning. This past weekend, about a week ago, we launched a major moai, a walking moai, where the Hamakua Health Center has 70 employees, and we're forming moais where people are going to be walking for 10 consecutive weeks, both in Hawi and in Honoka'a. The strong community involvement of individuals that are taking on this initiative in trying to get people to think about health. I was privy to and part of, there's a Ma'alai Gardens in Waimea, it's next to the school. And it was in partnership with the Waimea Ocean Film Festival. And if there was an ideal model of those principles in place, we got there at 7 o'clock in the morning. There were about 50 people, all walks of life. We walked for about, half hour. Came back, we had the Blue Dragon chef preparing a demonstration of healthy food. And then we all had fellowship, talking stories, sense of belonging. So things are happening one person at a time. The second wave is about to begin. Applications are going to be out very soon now for other communities to become Blue Zone communities. I really want to encourage West Hawaii to pull together those volunteers, to pull together community members who are serious about supporting a healthy lifestyle and put in that application.
Thank you, Carol. Later on, we will ask you about who should get involved and how they can get involved and all that stuff. But I have a question for Tina. Does Complete Streets include connecting neighborhoods so not only biking from point A to B, but also the bus system can improve?
It does. Actually, that connectivity is something that the county is very interested in. The planning department is doing a lot of work around, and our Department of Public Works too, around, where are the bike lanes, where are the pathways, and where are the gaps, and how can we connect those gaps? And one thing that I would love to see the Mayor's Active Living Advisory Council take on this year is to dust off our bike plan, Hawaii, that was established in 1979, and take another look at it and see if we can't fill in some of those gaps with, I'm talking primarily bike lanes here, but and I don't know the exact numbers here, but I do know that the county has just completed a new transportation base yard, right? Starting to, and I understand that there's several new buses that will be put into service, so that transit piece is going to be very, very important. So connecting transit, bike lanes, and then any other type of walking facility is very high on the list.
Thank you, Tina. Randy, do you want to add anything to the whole transit plan for the county?
Yes. Well, as you know, we live in a very big island with a limited amount of resources in regards to buses and having the routes that can serve the majority of people. Right now, I believe we have fixed routes in Hilo and in Kona. These are fixed routes or routes that just go around, certain areas all day long. Right? And I think we have some in Waimea as well. But to expand that, will require more buses. So each year, we get federal funding for some of our buses. So as we bring on new buses, part of the challenge we have as a county is that we rack up so many miles on our buses every year that it's just keeping up with the current number of buses is sort of the challenge that we have. So we have 55 buses that service this island. Some of them are commuter buses, which is really workforce buses from East Hawaii to West Hawaii to service the hotels. They're heavily used for 5 o'clock in the morning type buses that bring people to the west and bring people back. And then, like I said, fixed routes. So I believe, there has been plans or studies that the mass transit have done. And I believe there's always input that we can receive in regards to where are new routes needed. But, we're far from the Honolulu bus system. We just don't have the density and the ridership and the amount of resources given the island that we serve. But, I believe we do the best that we can with what we have. And again, whatever new routes are needed, I think we always are looking at that as well.
Thank you very much. And Tina, you mentioned earlier about possibly reviving the mayor's bike plan. So a couple of weeks ago, the county finance committee appropriated $250,000 to start a bike share pilot program on Ali'i Drive. And tell us a little bit more about that.
Okay, so I mentioned earlier that PATH's been around for 30 years, and for 30 years we've been saying to anybody that would listen, hey, bikes are good things, bikes are great things, and there's lots of benefits to bike riding, and it's great to, we'd like to have bike facilities so more people would feel comfortable riding. And I think it was back in September, I got a phone call from the Director of Research and Development, Kawehe Nava, and she said, I think bikes are really good things. And I was in New York and I saw this bike share program, and I think that we should have this on Hawaii Island. And I said, I agree. And so that was the start of our conversation. And she asked that we put together, PATH, put together a pilot project proposal. And we have done that. And this pilot project, this is just the very beginning of bike share, but it's a start, and it will be a good test, I believe. Will involve 32 bikes, 3 pods, and they will be stationed in Kailua Kona. Because we very much would like to be the first in the state to have bike share, and because we're on that tight timeline, the pods will probably most likely be located on county property and or state property. We're talking to the Harbors Department now. We want to be in partnership with the Aloha Greeters program that's based out of the Kailua Pier. And we're also working concurrently on and this is important, an island-wide multimedia bike and pedestrian safety campaign that will launch about the same time. The Mayor's Active Living Advisory Council is heading that up. And again, we're talking with the Kailua Village Business Improvement District about, how might this work in Kailua Kona. So we're very excited about it. We hope that you'll be excited about it too. It's our hope that this really gets some traction, and that very quickly we can start to expand the program, bring in more bikes, bringing more stations. The great thing about these particular stations is that they're relatively portable. I mean, they're quite heavy and they need a forklift in order to move, but they don't have to be affixed to the ground. So if we find that there's a better place for a station, for a pod, then we can easily move it.
Thank you, Tina. And our next question is to Carol. What activities have the East Hawaii and North Hawaii Blue Zones been involved in toward improving health? You mentioned KTA. What else?
Okay, KTA, I think that really is important. because, you know, it gives people a choice. We have, you know, when we talk about the 5-mile radius, we're talking about work sites. We're talking about, we have several businesses, we call them work sites, that Suisan is one of them, it's major, who are really working at creating opportunities for their employees to have healthier lifestyles. You know, UH is another one, the county, some of the departments are working at that as well. So again, you know, you have your food establishments. We have a couple, which I'm not free to speak about right now because it will soon go public. But some of our restaurants, some of our really good restaurants are seriously looking at becoming a Blue Zones restaurant, which would provide opportunities for people to go to a restaurant, and there's a little Blue Zone tag on, and you have a choice of what kind of meal you want. So it's all about making the healthy choice the easier choice. And again, you know, we just had a food demonstration on healthy food. We had 80 people there. And so people are just wanting to know what is it that they can do, you know.
But how does the Blue Zone approach differ from the traditional health initiatives?
You know, I think I can speak really, I've been dieting all my life. I mean, well, not all my life, that's a lie, but a good number of years of my life. And, you know, when you try to do it by yourself, it's really hard. The whole Blue Zones concept, as I spoke about on the slide, is looking at your whole 5-mile radius, yeah, and everything that you do. So, you know, a good example, my husband, Portuguese, 77 years old, you think you'd never make a change. He heard Dan Buettner's talk, and he comes home and he says, we're going to make changes in this house. I said, oh, really? You know? And I said, oh, you can teach old dogs new tricks here. Well, he says, you know, we're going to stop this thing of all these canned vegetables. Then he goes shopping, comes back with asparagus and broccoli and da-da-da-da. Of course, he never knows how to cook it. So he says, how do you cook this darn thing, you know? But I think it's just creating those, creating within all of us the opportunity to think differently, but making it easy to make those kinds of changes. The first thing to changing community is to change ourselves. So I'm going to offer you an opportunity to take a personal pledge. It's not for Blue Zones, but it's for you.
So Carol, you don't have to be a Blue Zone community in order to start doing
No.
or changing your lifestyle into a healthy
No,
lifestyle.
and I want to offer you that opportunity tonight to take the personal pledge. Again, the personal pledge is for yourself. Look at it. There's a whole checklist. Pick 5 things that you're going to do in the next 6 months. You. Maybe. What I'm doing is I'm parking farther away when I go park. Instead of circling, finding the clothes, I'm walking a little bit more. Even with my bad knees, instead of getting the elevator, I'm taking the steps. I talked about eating fresh vegetables. You know, small little stuff that we can do.
Thank you, Ms. Carol. And you heard her. If you don't return the bottom part, you don't get a gift.
Correct.
So make sure you return the bottom part. Our next question, maybe Jack can address this. Healthy choices in food are usually more expensive choices. Can this change? How? Or any one of you really can answer this.
Well, I mean, I live in a place where a lot of food grows on the island and it's just wasted, for one thing. And ironically, it's of all the food choices you can make, most of the food that grows here is the healthiest food for us to be eating, as opposed to something that has to be processed, you know, purchased in a store. This island's probably one of the best places in the world to be healthy. I mean, you've got relatively clean air, beautiful weather, warm temperatures. We can grow food here, and you can be outside most of the time, which is kind of where we're designed to be. And so I don't find it difficult to make those choices. And it's basically, when it comes to what you eat, the three main rules are whole foods versus raw or versus fractionated or processed. Raw versus cooked. When you cook something, you totally destroy nutrient value. And so, it's not really that good for you. And plant foods versus animal. I'm not saying you have to be completely plant-based, but mostly plant-based. And if this is something that you're not doing and you start doing it, there's going to be changes taking place in your body that you might not understand. This is very common occurrence. And that's why, again, I'm trying to form a study group so that you will understand what's going on if you decide to make some of these changes. Otherwise, you may think that it's an unhealthy way to go, and you'll go back to whatever you were doing before. And that's not the right solution to it. You need the proper information so you understand how to correctly interpret symptoms.
Thanks, Jack. Anyone else? Yes, Randy.
I just want to share just a little bit about the blue zones and that. I think it's a really, like a holistic approach when you look at things, because a lot of times from a medical standpoint, you look at certain things, but the blue zones is about not just health, but about well-being. Well-being, encompasses a lot of your, could be spiritual, could be emotional health. These are things that, not often are measured or looked at, and I think that's really important because, I think we all can see the benefits of, having a good sense of, place, your emotional health, is really vital. Yoga, for example, is really important, right? Because it helps you, and so it encourages that, which I think is really important. A lot of us might find it in different ways, but I think having that as part of your daily regimen or your weekly regimen is really important. And I think Blue Zones brings that element beyond just exercise, diet. There's the other piece of that, which I think is really important.
Thank you. And Maya, yoga is a really wonderful practice that helps people go back to the center, right, and then help them meditate and whatnot. There are a lot of communities across the United States who offer yoga classes for free as part of their Blue Zones effort. Is that something that you and people in your community would maybe think about doing?
It's certainly possible. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, yoga, I offer donation-based classes up in Kohala so that regardless of how much somebody is able to donate, they are able to come. Sometimes it's bananas, right? It's whatever they show up with, but they're showing up and they're working toward their well-being. And I love as well the holistic approach of the Blue Zones. And, yoga, in that Power 9, yoga addresses the downshift, right? It addresses the moving naturally. It addresses that fellowship and that sense of belonging, right? When we feel united within ourselves and we feel connected to our fellows and to the world, we feel that sense of purpose and we feel that sense of belonging, which along with the healthy eating and the exercise and then that, whatever spiritual means to you, but that spiritual well-being of having that purpose, right, can do so much for your health.
Thank you very much. And with that, we are done with our question and answer. And we want to thank our speakers tonight for being here and for providing us with wonderful information. And before we close, I would like to call on Bill.
I want to thank you all for attending tonight's forum, and I want to thank our speakers, Jack, Maya, Tina, Randy, Carol, wherever you are. Hello, Carol. Great presentation, all of you. Thank you again so much.
Thank you. Good night, everybody.